away we go. So the first thing I wanted to share with you is that what we have up on the screen right now, you'll notice has nothing to do with the medical genomics info session that you've signed up to attend tonight. But I wanted to advertise something that we're doing next week, which is generally really well received. And for the last two of these events, we have been sharing this invitation with prospective students as well as with current students. So historically, this event has been locked just for our current students, but we've really recently opened it up to our prospective students because it's such a great event, and we think it gives our prospective students a really wonderful glimpse into what it would be like if they participated in the program, then graduated from the program. So next Thursday, at this time next Thursday, so Thursday, November 14th at 5 p.m., we're going to be welcoming back a selection of our fantastic alumni from across a few different cohorts. So we're going to welcome back Kamalika, Radhika, Harpreet, Ilham, and James. These five alumni are working in really different kinds of roles in the field, and they're going to share some perspectives with us about sort of their transition from the MedGen program into their professional spheres, and what worked, what didn't work, and share some advice with our current students, and then of course with our prospective students if you're interested. So you don't have to register for this event, but you can copy down the Zoom link. So the full Zoom link, I don't know if you can see my screen. The full Zoom link, or I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the full Zoom link is at the bottom. There's also a QR code if you want to grab it on your phone. But we would really encourage any of you who are seriously thinking about MedGen to join this alumni panel next week and hear from some of our sort of needle pushing alumni on what they're doing in the field these days. All right, so I hope everybody who was interested in doing so has had a chance to take a screenshot of this screen. And if not, I think we will probably be posting this information somewhere. Martina, maybe you can clarify that in the chat for everybody. Or maybe just drop this Zoom link in the chat so that people can catch it up later if they want to. Right. So with that in mind, we are going to jump right into the sort of reason for the season. And I'll finally introduce myself. So thank you for joining our program's virtual info session and our networking event. My name is Dr. Erin Styles. I'm one of two directors of the Medical Genomics program right now. So it's myself, and you'll also notice Dr. Martina Steiner is in our session today. She's my co-director of this wonderful program. And it's really my pleasure to welcome all of you into this session. So before we begin, I would really just like to see where we're coming from today. So I'm currently in Toronto. I know that Martina is also in Toronto. So where are we zooming in from? I guess probably a lot of people are zooming in from Toronto. Do we have anybody who's zooming in from the Scarborough campus, Mississauga, McMaster, Ottawa? Amazing. Thank you for joining us from Ottawa. Hamilton, Brampton. Wow, thank you guys for Taiwan. Did I see go by? Wow, thank you so much for joining us from Taiwan, Mississauga, Vaughan, Mexico, Montreal. Amazing. Hamilton, Scarborough, Mississauga, Vancouver. Wow, you guys are fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your near and far schedules to join us. Pakistan, thank you so much. Another Vietnam, Mexico. Thank you guys so much. Oxford. Wow. I'm really honored that you have given us a little bit of your time, everybody. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you guys for joining from all over the world, near and far. We really appreciate that. And before I launch into telling you all about our program, I would love to just spend a second talking about the field. So the study of genomics. The study of genomics represents our ability to really understand and interpret and really harness all of the information that's contained within our DNA. And this is a rapidly growing area. It has really far-reaching implications from the laboratory bench on campuses where we're making new discoveries all the time, all the way off campus into hospitals and into clinics to patients' bedsides where we can implement some of that new knowledge and really make a difference. Now, medical genomics is this emerging clinical discipline that relies on using genomic information about an individual person to help inform decisions about their clinical care and technical advancements. So, for example, new ways of sequencing in this still relatively new field are really driving us towards this new era of healthcare. This field is absolutely exploding right now. And we know more about the human genome and how our genetic information impacts our health than ever before. But this really fast-paced nature of all these advancements is actually creating this widening knowledge gap between the cutting-edge genomics research that's happening all around us on campuses around the world and current clinical practice. So what's making it off campus and into patients' hospital rooms and helping people. So with that in mind, why would you do a master's in medical genomics? In collaboration with policymakers and research and industry and healthcare leaders, we have identified that there is this huge emerging need for laboratory professionals and clinicians who can generate, who can integrate, and who can interpret genetic and genomic data. And that is what this program is really situated to provide. So the Professional Masters in Health Science, or the MHSc in Medical Genomics, will really focus on placing graduates right at the vanguard of genomic medicine. And this is really oriented towards a new way of thinking about research in clinical science, where genetic and genomic data are very routinely being collected and analyzed across a really wide range of different kinds of patient populations and for many different medical reasons. So our mission in this program is to provide our students with this very unique training and learning opportunity to teach them practical and theoretical aspects of modern genetics and genomics with this sort of strong focus on clinical applications, and then to give our students these directly actionable skills that we know that they're going to need in the field and these career enabling experiences that they can have with us so that they have the tools that they need to get that great job when they graduate. The program consists of a core set of lecture, discussion, and project-based courses across 2 years, and notably, there is no graduate thesis. So this is really a major difference between this program and some of the other graduate programs in our department and that you might be familiar with from your home institutes. So there's a lot more information about all of our core courses on the program website, but in brief, students are taking 2 relatively high-intensity core classes at a time. And throughout the program, they're required to take 4 elective short courses. So the first year of the program, which you can see at the top of the slide here, year 1 is fall, winter, summer term. The first year is dedicated primarily to learning all the core competencies of the field. And then the second year, which is down here, which is the fall and the winter, focuses more on big picture application courses. And it culminates in this capstone practicum project. And there's going to be an opportunity to hear a little bit more about the practicum shortly, but as a general overview, our program has these pre-existing wonderful supervisory relationships with a number of groups around the GTA and across Southern Ontario, and even across Canada and some internationally. And although the type of practicum projects that our students end up placed in are quite varied and change up a little bit every year, in general, the projects fall into these 4 major categories, including clinical diagnostics, clinical research, industry, biotech, startup things, and government agencies. And then there's also always an opportunity for our students to organize a self-directed placement if they know that they have a specific interest that's not reflected in our current placement partnerships. There we go. All right. So what will our graduates do and how are they going to address this knowledge gap that we've identified in our healthcare system? As a professional program, this is a really important question for us. And as students, I think it's pretty safe to say that it's also going to be a really important question for you. So one of the big goals of our program is to prepare grads with career enabling skills for immediate practical implementation, meaning they can walk out the door after the program and get that great job right away. And so with this in mind, our grads should expect to be suited for a really wide variety of professional roles. So we know that our graduates are ideally suited for work in clinical diagnostic facilities or in research labs. And here they're really implementing the tools of genomic medicine and filling this major and always growing need in the realm of genome analysis and variant interpretation and annotation. We also know that our graduates are pretty attractive to publicly funded enterprises and private companies that are generating and interpreting genomic data. And this could either be for direct-to-consumer delivery or for the clinic. And we know based on our program's strong emphasis on both verbal and written communication, our graduates are really well suited to a variety of science communications, project management, consulting, and health policy roles. Some of our students are already clinicians or they're well on their way to becoming clinicians when they enter the program. And so these clinical graduates who enter into the program either already pretty established in their professional practice or on a very clear clinical trajectory are expected to finish the program and then complete their clinical training or return to their existing clinical practice in some kind of new capacity. And we also recognize that some of our students every year are going to decide to pursue further education in a number of relevant fields, including things like medical school, genetic counseling, or PhD level studies, among a number of other sort of avenues that our graduates have explored. So this degree really allows graduates to address an observed need in both the lab and the clinic-facing sides of the field of medical genomics and enables these new kinds of career paths. And this is something that I'd like to focus in on for a minute. So I opened a minute ago by suggesting that this program is geared towards a new era of research in clinical science. And I want to explain what I mean by that before I move on. So in both clinical and in research labs, genetic and genomic tests are a growing component of the data that we're using to guide clinical treatment and to guide research. And these tests have progressed from looking at one gene at a time to panels of multiple genes at a time to collecting whole exomes and then whole genomes worth of data at a time. And as we've scaled that up, there's been this subsequent increase in the complexity of both understanding and communicating the results of all this genomic analysis. So I just spent a couple of minutes telling you about some of the career opportunities in the field that exist right now that we know that our grads are really well suited for. But because this field is changing and evolving so much and so quickly, in addition to these possibilities, which is really just the tip of the iceberg, we also recognize that we're training students all the time for jobs that don't exist yet. So by the time you graduate, this slide will look very different. So hopefully I've piqued your interest a little bit. And now I'm going to talk briefly about our application process, specifically who are our ideal applicants, what should you submit, what can you do to prepare. I also want to take this opportunity to highlight that all of the information I'm about to share can be found on our program website, which is there at the bottom of the slide, and which I think Dr. Steiner is about to drop in the chat. This program is very much the first of its kind in Canada, and one of the things that makes us really special is that we're a dual stream program. So we accept students into either a clinical stream or a laboratory stream. And in a very general sense, to enter into the clinical stream, applicants must have completed a PharmD or an equivalent degree in pharmacology or toxicology, a PDEP accredited BSc in food and nutrition, a nurse practitioner graduate program, a genetic counseling program, at least 1 year of an undergrad med degree while remaining in good standing with the medical school, or have completed a full and recognized MD program. And then to enter into the lab stream, which I'm assuming applies to more of the attendees in this session, applicants must have completed a 4-year BSc in a relevant discipline. So I've listed a few disciplines here that we know are a good fit, but this is by no means an exhaustive list. So if you don't see your major or your specialist degree on this list, don't worry. There is quite a bit of flexibility in this academic history, especially if you've worked professionally or gotten research experience professionally in the field. These two student streams, once they enter the program, they move through the courses as a single cohort. For the most part, our two streams are taking all the same classes, engaging in the same types of activities. And the idea is that this shared training environment allows students to better appreciate the role of genetic testing on both medical practice and on lab work, and really enables this more experience-based discussion as our two streams are going to be providing different voices and perspectives in a classroom. I also want to note that tuition is totally independent of your stream of entry. So tuition for all graduate programming is set annually. It's set by the university, which is way above my pay grade. And while the exact amount for next year hasn't been announced yet, domestic students should be expecting to pay somewhere in the ballpark of just north of $10,000 annually. International students, you should be expecting to pay just north of $40,000 annually. As a professional program, we do not offer our students a research stipend since we are not fundamentally a research program. However, all of our students are eligible to apply for TA positions, which is teaching assistant positions on campus. They're eligible to apply for university work-study positions and for the Ontario Graduate Scholarship. And the Ontario Graduate Scholarship is available to both international and domestic students. And some of our students are also eligible for Temerity Faculty of Medicine needs-based bursaries, which we offer directly through the program, for student bank loans and for OSAP loans. In terms of actually applying to the program, almost everything that you would ever need to know about how to apply to the MedGen program is right on our website in two major locations. So all of the details about our admissions pipeline are available here. moleculargenetics.utoronto.ca/medgen-admission-information. And again, I think Dr. Steiner is concurrently sharing all these links with you in the chat. And more specific instructions covering how to apply, what documents you need to submit, how these documents should be formatted. All this information is going to be provided here. So the front end of that link is the same, MedGen-application-procedures. And again, I think Dr. Steiner is sharing these in real time. So I'm not going to go over that too much or in too much depth in this session, since the information provided on the website is very comprehensive, but I will go through it briefly or give you a quick rundown. So all applications should be submitted online directly through the School of Graduate Studies at the following website right here, admissions.sgs.utoronto.ca/apply. We have 2 rounds of admissions during each academic year, which is for the September 2025 start date. There's not a meaningful difference between the 2 dates. They are both to enter into the program in September, but I always encourage people to apply early because we tend to make slightly more offers in the winter admission. Okay. The other thing that you might be noticing here is that there are 2 important dates involved in each admissions cycle. So the first of these dates, which would be January 15th in the winter and May 1st in the spring admissions round, these dates are the deadline for your application package to be completed and submitted to that School of Graduate Studies SGS portal. The second of the 2 dates, which has an arrow pointing to it, this would be February 1st for the winter admission cycle and May 15th for the spring admission cycle. This is the deadline for all of your supporting documents that should accompany your application package. So these are going to be things like your reference letters. These can be uploaded to the School of Graduate Studies portal up to 2 weeks after the application package is due. If you have any questions about this process, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. And in the next few slides, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what you might want to consider including in your application package. All right. Would I be able to ask the attendees to just really quickly check their mics? Because I think somebody has their mic off mute. Thank you so much, everybody. All right. So a completed application is going to include either 5 or 6 items, depending on whether you're applying as a domestic student or as an international student. So domestic students, you need these things. You need 3 reference letters, a scan of your transcripts, your CV, your transcript summary form, which is stream specific, and that's explained on our website. You need a letter of intent. And international students, you will also need this 6th item. You'll need to submit proof of English language proficiency unless one of your transcripts clearly indicates that the language of instruction was English. So if you've done a degree at a university that taught in English and your transcript says that, you don't need to worry about item 6. And again, detailed instructions for completing these items are listed on our application procedures webpage, but I just want to draw your attention to a few key points in this list. While you are completing your SGS application, you're going to be asked to provide contact information for 3 references. And these people are then going to be automatically contacted by the School of Graduate Studies as soon as you press submit on your application. So you should ask those people in advance if they're up for writing a reference letter for you. We have a few tips on choosing your references and who might be a good reference on our website. I really recommend checking those things out. But please, please, please reach out to your references before you submit your application package so that they are not surprised by your reference request. The next thing I want to point out is that our transcript summary form is something that the goal of this form is just to help our admissions committee determine how well your academic background has prepared you for our program. So it's going to ask you to outline courses that you've taken that touch on various different academic nodes. But it's really important to note that the categories that you're going to see in that form are not prerequisites for the program. So for example, this form is going to ask if you have any computer coding or programming experience, if you've taken any ethics classes, if you've taken any philosophy classes or law classes. These are not required for entry. We would just be very interested to hear about it if you have taken classes like that. And if you're not sure exactly how to complete that form, we have a how-to video that one of our former students posted up on our YouTube channel, which is really, really helpful if you want to check that out. So you can look us up on YouTube at MHSc Medical Genomics 6343. I also want to strongly recommend that international students or students who are applying to the program with international degrees, go and check out our international students page, which we will post in the chat. Okay. The letter of intent is also important enough for your application that it deserves its own slide. I would encourage you to include in your letter a description of why you're interested in the program. And you should also tell us why the program should be interested in you. So that's part 1 and 2. We would really want you to be able to articulate both your short-term goals and your long-term plans. You should tell us about your relevant experiences. And if you want to, you can also use your letter of intent as an opportunity to explain any extenuating circumstances that might have impacted your grades. So for example, if you had something happening in your personal life in the second semester of second year, and we would see a big valley in your grades that would then come back up afterwards, you can choose to, but you don't have to, explain what was happening there in your letter of intent so that the admissions committee understands that it was extenuating circumstance. And I would also encourage you to steer clear of certain things. So I would encourage you to not tell us your entire life story. So for example, since I was a child, or ever since high school, that's maybe not as informative for our admissions committee. Please don't focus too much on things other than academia, science, clinical work, or research. So for example, my role as a server at wherever you've worked has really prepared me for medical genomics. This again may not be overly informative for our admissions committee. Now, everything I'm saying here, there are always caveats and there are always exceptions. So if you truly believe that your role as a server is an exception and it really is relevant, then please ignore this sentiment and go ahead and include it. And also, please, in your letter of intent, don't focus too much on your coursework. Some is okay, but remember that the admissions committee also has your transcript, so you don't need to recount all of your history and all of your courses in your letter of intent. And instead, you should use that space for some of the things in the do list. All right. After our admissions committee has had a chance to go through all of the applications, all of our most promising applicants are going to be invited for short virtual interviews. So even if you're local in the city, we're still going to do your interview virtually, so everybody's on an even playing field. These are all going to take place over the month of February and a bit of March in the winter cycle, and over the month of June in the spring cycle. And you'll be notified of whether you've gotten an interview invitation via email. So when you submit your application package, please make sure that you've typed your email address in there correctly, and then keep on checking that email address that you've listed as your point of contact for a note from us inviting you to an interview, because you're going to have to respond to our email to confirm your interview date and time. If you don't respond to our email, we will move down our interview list and invite the next person on the list. The interviews are the very last step in the admissions pipeline for our program. After that stage, you're going to be notified by the School of Graduate Studies and by the Molecular Genetics Department when a formal decision about your application has been made. And if we've decided to make you an offer of admission, one of the program directors is also going to reach out to you directly and invite you to join us personally. So we are now looking for the class of, I guess, 2027 now to join us next September. And we really want people who are excited about genomic medicine. We want to find people who want to get that training that they need to be ready to fill this huge gap at the intersection of genetic and genomic research, clinical practice, informatics and data analysis, bioethics, and new biomedical technology. We know that all of these industries are changing and new ones are growing to accommodate the changing landscape of genomic medicine. And we really have every reason to believe that some of the most in-demand jobs for our graduates 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, will be the ones that are only now just being developed to meet the needs of this really, really exciting new field. This is a great time to be getting into medical genomics. So we know that there's a need for people who have this kind of education. We're going to give our students the tools that they need to situate themselves in the field, to solve problems in this field, and to carve out really exciting careers for themselves in a bunch of different areas. So I'm going to end here by saying that we are now accepting applications for, I forgot to change this slide, but we are now accepting applications for September 2025. And in a moment, we're going to move into the second part of our info session, which is a panel discussion with some of our current students. But I also want to note that you're more than welcome to reach out to me or to our general email accounts for more information at any time. And I'm sure that Martina would say the same thing, that you can reach out to her. So if you have any questions about how to apply, connecting with references, or about the program in general, I would encourage you to reach out. I also strongly encourage you to keep in touch in other ways. I've already mentioned our YouTube channel, but you can also find us across some other platforms, including Instagram, whatever Twitter's calling itself now, TikTok, and of course, LinkedIn. I can't encourage you enough to read through the information that's on our website. Almost everything that I've told you today can also be found there, but probably written in a nicer, more digestible way. And if you want to get a bit of an insider view to what some of our current students have been up to, you can also explore our student blog, which has been running since 2018. It's called the MedGen Project, and you'll find that at uoftmedicalgenomics.blog.home. So that's all that I'm going to say for now. And before I hand the mic over, I'm just going to describe a little bit what we're going to do for the remainder of this session. So in a minute, I'm going to stop talking and pull my slides down. We're going to have a student panel discussion so that you can hear about the program from a selection of some of our fantastic current students. After the panel is done, we're going to move into sort of choose your own adventure breakout rooms where you'll be able to hear from and ask questions directly to some of our core faculty members and our student ambassadors about a range of different topics, including career prospects after our program, our capstone practicum project, getting your application package ready, and the core MedGen program curriculum. So that's the plan for the rest of our time today. And now I'm going to ask Dr. Martina Steiner to take the mic and welcome our fantastic student panelists to take the virtual stage, and we're going to begin our live discussion. So you can feel free to write questions as you go into the chat. And we also, so in addition to our panelists, we have a number of our other wonderful current student representatives that are waiting to answer your questions. So feel free to drop some questions in the chat.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Styles, for this presentation. I'm going to stop the recording.